All right, the meeting will come to order. This is the 7 o'clock work session of the Mayor and Council for April 2nd, 2012. It is now 7 p.m. The meeting was established pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, which was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and attend any meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the law, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of River Edge have noticed this meeting by publishing the date, time, and place in the Borough Hall, and notices were sent to the Record and the Ridgewood News. The mission of the governing body is to provide essential service through the establishment and implementation of public policy to safeguard our infrastructure and providing honest, courteous, and professional services, thereby establishing a sense of trust and accomplishment with our residents. Through research and prudent planning, we seek to minimize risks while improving our services. We are sensitive to the needs of the taxpayers while realizing that this governing body cannot be all things to all people within revenue constraints imposed by state mandates, prevailing economic conditions, and attitudes about taxation. Can I have a roll call, Denise?
Councilman Murphy?
Here.
Councilman Ford?
Here.
Councilman Porto?
Here.
Councilman Negron?
Here.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Here.
Councilman Papaleo?
Here.
And Mayor Mascarotola?
Here. All right, the work session agenda contains no borough administrator topics. I forgot to mention one thing, which is that the proceedings of the work session and the public meeting at 8 o'clock are being recorded by audio and videotape. If a member of the public wishes to speak and be seen as well as heard, they can approach the microphone so that we can get you on camera.
Excuse me, Mayor, also 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I said the work session and the 8 o'clock meeting. All right, for discussion, we have a request for capital funds from the Beautification Committee. Alan?
Mayor, if I may, to send a memorandum to the Mayor and Council indicating that the Beautification Committee, which does not have any operating funds this year from our current budget, does have some open space money and money in their trust account, had made an informal request for a capital improvement while we were working through the budget preparation season. I provided more detail on that capital request. These obelisks, as they're described in the memorandum, they're looking for 6 of these to be used at 140 Kinderkamak and at the library. They are, as far as I know, made of steel, so they would qualify for a 5-year life under capital. The cost of these would be a little under $1,000, and I researched our ordinances. We do have one ordinance which has $1,000 available in it. If the Mayor and Council want to approve this request, then we could change the scope of that ordinance to accommodate this purchase.
All right, can we open it for any discussion? Anybody have any comments? For or against?
Money's there?
Yes.
For.
Is that a motion?
Yeah. I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, let's have any further discussion? The money's there, it's described what the use is going to be for the Beautification Committee. It's in open space. No further discussion. Let's have a roll call.
Councilman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Ford?
Yes.
Councilman Porto?
Yes.
Councilman Negron?
Yes.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Yes.
And Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
All right. Thank
Mayor.
you. Moving on to the work session consent agenda, we have 2 items. Item number 1 is to approve a resolution amending a contract with Costa Engineering for the Howland Avenue Curb and Sidewalk Reconstruction Project Phase 3, which I believe is the final phase, to the Paramus border in the amount not to exceed $12,500. And number 2 is to approve a resolution to enter into a contract, to an agreement with Papa's Sand and Gravel for the purchase of leaf grass yard waste from the borough at a price of $6 per cubic yard. I know that John Lynch provided us with a memo dated April 2nd, 2012, regarding the sale of compost. He indicated that he contacted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vendors. The best offer that he received was from Papa Sand and Gravel. Is there, do we need any, what I want to know is, do we need any other information? Do we want to have John Lynch come in? Are we satisfied with the memo that he's given us? Anybody's thoughts? Paul, you're in liaison to the DPW. Are you recommending it, or?
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't had a conversation with John yet on that. I mean,
Do you feel comfortable voting on it? Do you want to table it?
I would say go ahead and vote on it. There's no reason to wait on it.
Anybody have any further questions on this year's contract for $6 a cubic foot?
No, I trust him on that.
Alan, do you know how comparable this is to, say, last year's contract, or?
Yes,
It's actually in the memo.
Yeah, we've had anywhere from $3 up to $8, but that's been double ground where we've had to put it through the tub grinder twice. This has been a practice that we've had over the years, not only to generate revenue, but to make sure that we get rid of the compost before it creates any odors for our residents or surrounding communities.
Right.
So we do like to get this done out of the compost area as soon as possible so that we don't run into those issues.
So last year's contract price with Let It Grow was $4 per cubic yard, and this year's proposal from Papa Sand and Gravel is $6, which is 50% higher. All right. No further discussions? Can I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Can I have a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Let's have a roll call.
Councilman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Ford?
Yes.
Councilman Porco?
Yes.
Councilman Vignoni?
Yes.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Yes.
And Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
All right, and how about the resolution to amend the engineering with Costa to amend the contract with Costa Engineering? Any discussion? Ed?
Is this amendment for the new work that's being done? Or is this a change in an existing project and he's asking for more money?
No, we have about $1,000 left on the old contract. We received a bill of about $4,000, so we need at least $3 to pay this additional bill that we received. The project is at the tail end right now. Some resurfacing work that has to be done and some restoration. And I've asked them to give me a not-to-exceed number that will at least assure that this will be the final amendment. So this amendment, and there's no indication that he's going to go all the way up to the top of this amendment. You know, he may fall below, in which case we'll just liquidate the balance of the contract. So this is to finish out the project from 5th to the Paramus border.
So that it's over and above his original proposal price for the construction inspection?
Yes, when we award those contracts, we ask for his best guesstimate at those points, knowing that it may not be an exact number, but at least we have a not-to-exceed number to work with and a limit, at which point he would have to come back to us for additional funds.
Okay. Is this going to be a formal resolution on the consent agenda?
Yes, there is a resolution listed. If you approve it on the consent, then you would, it's listed for consideration as part of the meeting tonight.
All right, so this is going to be on the consent agenda at the 8 o'clock meeting. If you want to pull it out for a separate vote, anyone has the ability to do that. All right, moving on to council reports. Are there any council reports right now? Kathleen?
I just have one from the library. I stopped in there the other day. They now have 4 e-readers that people can take out, and they are now offering e-books. So if anyone's interested, go to the library and you can take out an e-reader and get an e-book. That's it.
All right. Paul, any report?
None tonight.
Johnny, any report?
No.
Ed, any reports?
No, Mayor.
Al?
Yeah, just there's some dates coming up
that everybody should be aware of. Little League opening day is set for April 28th at 10 a.m. It's the 60th anniversary of River Edge Little League. Regal opening day is on the 29th at 1 p.m. And I don't know if anyone's interested or not. The Senior Citizen Prom that Interact has at Riverdale High School is this Wednesday at 5 o'clock. And that's about it.
What's the date for Wednesday?
The 4th.
Wow, busy. Thank you.
Mayor, are we doing liaison reports during the official, or is this going to be everything all in one?
No, I'm just following the agenda as printed. You could do your liaison report now, or you could wait until the 8 o'clock meeting.
I'm going to wait.
Okay. All right, for mayor's reports, the only thing I really have to report is that I attended the Easter egg hunt. I saw some of the council people there. I know Paul was there, I know Al was there. And I attended the Lions Club breakfast, which was very nice affair. There was a lot of people there. I'm still getting emails and telephone calls regarding the tax reassessment. I'm advising people to make appointments with the tax assessor, Mr. Anzavino. He's scheduled to come before the mayor and council, I believe, on the 16th. And at that time, we can set him up in a separate room to meet with property owners to discuss their reassessment. According to the cards that all property owners have received, the appeal deadline is May the 1st, 2012. So that's what I have to report on mayor's reports. Is there any unfinished business? All right, any new business? All right, can I have a motion to open the meeting to the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? All right, the meeting is open to the public. If you'd like to be heard, then you can stand, just tell us your name and address. If you'd like to have your face on YouTube, you could stand at the microphone, and you can ask the mayor and council any questions you wish. Would anybody like to make a statement? Speak on any issue? Yes.
Hi, my name is Victor Herida. I'm at 160 Zabriskie.
Okay.
I've spoken to a couple of you on the phone, and a couple of my family members also talked offline about the tax reassessment that we received a letter back from. I think in the process we just are a little disappointed because we've spoken with Tony, and he's explained how he came about, his role in the process, so it's all been explained to us. I think what would disappoint us is we've heard that this council...
Is Tony from the appraisal company?
No, Tony Anzavino, the tax assessor.
Oh, Jimmy Anzavino.
Excuse me. We've heard different things. We've heard that this council didn't get to review the assessment before it was released to us, the public, and didn't necessarily agree with some of the decisions. And I think for my family who had moved to the neighborhood and to the community about 3-4 years ago, what's disappointed us is, we carefully decided to join this community and to make an investment in this community. And from a tax perspective, over the past 3.5 years, our taxes have more than doubled. And from a financial management perspective, it's not something that's really puts us in a situation that might actually push us out of our home. And because of the increase in tax, we're not even sure we could sell our home. So we've spoken, and I think, Sandy, you actually knocked on our door last summer. I don't know if you remember meeting my wife and my 2 twin kids, but we live in the city in a 600 square foot apartment with 2 young kids who lived in a crib and kitchen, which is, that's our history. So we came into this community, moving to the suburbs to find a family life in the future. and make really careful decisions about what we could afford from a carrying cost for our house in terms of our mortgage and our taxes. So the increase in taxes is significant, and I think that it just surprised me that if the council hadn't seen how the distribution had changed so drastically against some of the newer families and had an opportunity to question that and make a sound decision, I think that's a missed opportunity, and it concerns me that a decision like this, I heard today that some deadline had passed and therefore we can't reverse the decision on the 31st, something mandated by the state, and it's just shocking that a deadline could pass when a leadership board like this didn't even get a chance to review that decision. So I don't know how everybody else feels about this, but, and I heard other people spoke about this in previous meetings, I felt that our family have to come and join the interest to help the community and to help ourselves. So we'd love to talk with you guys about it. Appreciate you listening.
I actually had a conversation with Victor today, and we talked a lot about this, and I told him about our concerns, and I did mention that the council was caught off guard, and we weren't presented it before we went out to the town, and that's one thing I did talk about, and which I was, I was not happy with. We're still in the same boat as you, trying to figure out what we can do about it, and I think by giving, and I know I was talking to the mayor yesterday, and Councilwoman Murphy was there, and we were talking about, concerns about what we need to do about this. Whether we need to go back to Mr. Anzavino, also bring up the other appraisal, bring up the appraisal company and have them explain to us in a deeper way of what can be done, because the top 10% did get hit pretty hard, and we, in our conversation, even though it was a private conversation, it was something that we were still trying to find a way to get, to give some relief somewhere. And I know that we talked in detail about, the shifting of the waters. We take a little bit from you, and then it shifts, that baseline cost is going to shift someplace else. So, this is not dead yet. And, I was guilty of not hearing, I just heard about the deadline today, moving back to May 1st. So, I think that, there's still going to be a lot of conversation within the next month, and we can move forward from there. And just like I said today, I really, until we start pulling together and talking, with the actual appraisal company to see, their alternatives, or if there is any, we can just make next move there.
I appreciate that, and we're a young family, so I haven't been a homeowner. This is my first home. But I do recognize that decisions about taxes impact the marketability of our home. So it's like a bucket of water. You can't really evaluate how much water's in the bucket if you're putting water in and out of the bucket as part of the discussion. And so I think that the assessment, certainly on the homes that were focused as the undervalued previously, it's difficult to really have a true assessment, because at the higher tax level, nobody knows what those homes are valued at by the market. So it's really, how we can jump, and one of the things my family felt that was due to us when we came to the community was at least some kind of a gradual and predictable increase in taxes, because taxes exist, we all recognize that. I think the unpredictability of this increase based on the reassessment hits us 25 to 30% of the value of our homes being affected by that decision, which is not predictable or gradual.
Victor, without asking you for the amount of your taxes, could you tell us how much of an increase there was in percentage? Was it more, did your taxes go up more than 10%?
I'd be happy to tell you. We arrived at the community and we were advertised 11,000 in taxes, which may have been under. When we moved in, it was reassessed by the town and we were charged 13,000. Every year, in the past 3 years, it went to 14, 15, and this year it's approaching 17. And due to this assessment based on the online calculation that company provided to us, it's going to be up near 24, 25,000.
Wow, so you took a big jump.
We couldn't have, we wouldn't have passed the laws. We wouldn't be in this community with that situation. And we don't live outside our means. we make wise decisions about our life and our family. And this is a decision made without us.
All right. Well, thank you, Victor.
Mayor, I was going to wait till Mr. Ernestino came to bring some of this back up, but just to tell you a little bit more what I've been thinking. And I'm not still entirely clear about why the old reassessment was different from the new reassessment and why the land portion changed versus the house portion changed, all the different things Mr. Ernestino spoke about. But he keeps telling me, or he keeps telling us, that the reason he did this was to bring the assessments more in line with market rates or sales prices. Just flipping through the paper yesterday, I saw that 302 Adams was sold. It was sold for $532,000. Under the old assessment, it was assessed at $400,000, and under the new assessment, it was $430,000. So it sold for $100,000 more than what it was assessed at. And it seems that on some of the lower-end houses, that seems to be where some of the skewing seems to be. Now, I understand there may have been like a clumping of taxes where you had a very small band a small range of taxes over a wide range of kinds of houses. So you did have some very big homes who were paying the same taxes as more modest or smaller homes. So I understand how the new distribution spreads that out. But at the end of the day, the last 20 homes that I picked off of here, more recent sales, the average is about 10% more than the sales price is 10% more than the new assessments. So some of these houses are maybe underassessed. I mean, again, 389 sold for 436. I can give you this list too, but and Mr. Enzino probably can explain some of the what I call anomalies, but it still seems to me that while the statistics as a whole may have worked out, they didn't really look at the impact in the lower third, middle third, and upper thirds, and how that was going to be impacted. So,
I think you hit the nail on the head here. A proper evaluation needs to take all those into consideration, and a decision to move forward needs to be steady and sound. I don't know if that happened. I know another house that was on sale where the buyers backed out once this news was released. And I think it's difficult to look backwards at the sales and to be able to predict the future. I think when Paul and I were talking earlier, he said maybe we can revisit this a year from now. But more importantly to me and to other community members like yourselves, it concerns me that a decision like this could slip by the council and have such a big impact. And if this could slip by, what future decisions might slip by that quickly?
The one thing I have to say is that ordering a reassessment is kind of like a runaway train, because once the decision is made to go forward with the reassessment and the assessor and an appraisal company takes over, this board or the mayor or the council, we don't have any authority to tell the assessor this number is wrong, that number is wrong. He's statutorily mandated, and he's trained, and he has the qualifications, and the appraisal company does, to assess your home at 100% of the value. We could argue academically or theoretically about the public policy of going forward with the reassessment at the time when the market was fluctuating, but that's beyond us. But we have no control right now over changing the numbers unless it's done on an individual, one-on-one basis through the assessor's recommendation process or the tax appeal process. So that's the advice that I can give you, to, again, look at your property record card. The deadline for filing a tax appeal to preserve your rights is May 1st. Thank you. Yep. Anybody else wishes to be heard?
Yeah. My name is Joe Kalika. I have...
Joe, we spoke on the phone, right?
Yes, we did. Two properties, 834 Park Avenue, proposed new constructions. And looking to get started. Right now, I'm not doing anything. Completely shut down because of the lack of interest in the houses that I want to build, tax reasons. It's just...
These are your lots on Park Avenue that are against the railroad tracks?
Correct.
Okay.
So being told, approximately 20,000 in taxes, per house. Houses that back the rail station with, houses alongside of me that are going down.
And what are the size of the houses?
Approximately 2,500 square feet.
When I mentioned your case to the assessor, he told me 3,500 square feet. Was that a mistake?
Yeah, I actually have.
You have the plans and everything? Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, not at all. But, yeah, and, simply done, basic houses, that would be affordable. And, not some overly done, whatever, brick houses or something, high-end type of a thing, which I knew wouldn't be practical now. So, I'm kind of stuck with plans and property for houses that I can't sell. I have a house on Madison Avenue, and they were telling us the taxes were going to be around $19,000, and the lack of interest on that house is evident. So now I have 3 properties invested in town, of which really are, I don't know what I'm going to do right now. These houses, at least I have the option to downsize them in such a way that the taxes would be, that the houses would be affordable, the taxes would be low enough that somebody would buy them, like to get somebody to buy them. I don't want to say it that way, but that's what I would have to do. I brought up once or twice doing duplexes down there to a couple of people because it would be something that would be affordable, and being that they were duplexes, the town would still realize revenue. I'd have something that I could sell. But there's no guarantees of that happening. They already invested, a lot of money into the property. So the assessor, one thing he told me was, basically all I care about is my profit and my realtor's commission, which is not true. I care about my family, my income, what I do for a living. That's what I care about. He just said there would be no consideration for location or what I'm doing down there or anything. I've had other people approach me with properties, and I'm, done with that. Done with River Edge. I'm going to build my, whatever it takes to get out of here. And, when I invested in the town, I knew what the taxes were going to be. I knew what I was dealing with. And all of a sudden, boom, and thank God I didn't put a block in the ground yet. At least I can adapt. But it's just that I don't want to.
Sam, is there any, where could this gentleman go to find out or who should he ask if he can find out if he could build a duplex as opposed to a one family, or can he see our planner or you, or how would he go about that?
Well, I think it would be a very difficult application because it's not zoned for a duplex would be considered a two-family.
Correct.
And so basically if you're in the R1 or R2 zone down there, you're not going to be able to get permission to do that without getting what they call it's considered a D variance, D standing for a use type variance.
Right.
To just give you an example, it would be the equivalent of putting in let's say a service station in a residential neighborhood. Because the use doesn't conform to the zone district, then you have to get an enhanced majority of the zoning board to approve that type of application. It has been done in the past, like with Millbrook, for example. Millbrook did get approval, get a D variance for a very substantial project many years ago when they rehabilitated those homes off Kinnecamack Road. That would be an exception to the rule. If you came in my opinion, for a duplex dwelling in a single-family residential zone, there's no legal basis for the grant of that relief, so you cannot get it unless you got the area rezoned. If the area was rezoned, then of course it would be considered a permitted use, and you could do so. So that my opinion is that I don't feel that going through the zoning board would be a viable option for you. I think likelihood of success here is probably beyond remote. I don't think it's even possible, because there's no legal basis for it.
All right, well, the redevelopment of that area based on this tax bracket, the location being considered.
Well, what I would suggest you do, what you would have to do is get an analysis and have someone look at to see if the area should be rezoned. You could have, there's nothing prohibiting Riverbridge from adopting an ordinance which would permit more density in that zone, depending on the area. There's certain areas that may warrant it, you know what I mean? And since that area may be a transitional area, you may have more success in trying to see if the governing body, this body, would consider rezoning the area to a two-family duplex dwelling.
It does back up to the railroad tracks.
Well, it's a possibility. You have, for example, we went from age-restricted housing with the Keisel property to a non-age-restricted housing. You got 46 units that are on the verge of approval, it sounds like to me, before the planning board, but the ordinance was changed so that the application itself would be consistent with the zone revision. So that, in essence, what happened there is that you got a developer to develop the property, which was lying, essentially fallow for many, many years. Nothing happened there. It was subdivided into 7 lots, and then it went to age-restricted rezoning. Nothing ever happened to that property on Knickermack Road until this year. So that was the product of rezoning and the governing body looking at the area, evaluating the area to see whether it would make sense and whether it would stimulate the development of the property, which in fact, I think the governing body was on point on that. Whether this should be an area that should be reconsidered or considered for possible more density, like a duplex dwelling, is something that can be considered by the governing body to evaluate it.
Sam, only a few blocks away is the River Edge Road, which is all
which is the
duplexes, plus across the street, plus
I'm
the
not saying
apartments.
you can't make an argument. I
You know.
mean, I do a lot of these type of homes in Fort Lee, typically, and I've gotten many applications approved in what is typically single-family homes, older areas, but which have had non-conforming two-family homes. In other words, they were there before the ordinance was adopted, and the boards have looked favorably on that because the neighborhood is a de facto two-family area. This area here, what is it, on Madison?
Out
or-
Park Avenue.
Park, or no Park. Park could be considered an area where, because of its close proximity
The transit.
to transit and so forth, it may be an area which could possibly stimulate the area by having, a little bit more density for a given area. But the right way to do it would not be to go before the zoning board to effect the change, but to really come before this body with a recommendation. It would have to be evaluated. They're in the process here of picking a planner or selecting a planner for the borough to evaluate potential development in different parts of the town. So this could possibly be a targeted area where you could evaluate it, and it may be an appropriate area where a duplex would be viable, in that area. Yeah.
I feel, that it would be a great advantage, and actually, the plans that I have prepared early on for this are actually very nice, country-style homes, and not, some brick,
The advantage of the duplex is it gives a lot of people to come in on an entry level purchase.
Exactly, and that,
Where you can't afford to build an $18,000 home and expect people to make it their first purchase.
correct.
So what you've done is you've given a person an opportunity to move into a quality community by being able to, rather than spend, rather than spend $600,000 or $700,000, maybe for $350,000, $400,000, they can still get into the community and have a very nice home. They'll pay taxes based on the value of that 1/2 unit if it's condominiumized.
Yes.
And you could sell it, and then, because duplexes are very popular in a lot of areas of Bergen County. Where I practice in northeastern Bergen County, duplexes sell. They sell better than one-family homes.
Correct.
Yeah, but there's also apartments down there. There's that little
There are,
apartment building.
there are, but they're all
So how is that
non-conforming.
zoned?
They were all non-conforming. They probably predate, they look very old. So I
Well, it
think
looks
The apartments are-
concrete.
The apartments are okay.
They predate the ordinance. The ordinance, zoning ordinances were affected in this country in the early 50s, so that anything that was built in the 40s or the
Uh-huh.
30s would be grandfathered in, so they could be continued. If they
Uh-huh.
burned to the ground, you would lose the non-conformity, you have to build a conforming structure.
Yeah, 'cause there's like 6 apartments right over there.
That's what I'm saying, it could be a very good argument and something that should be brought before the board, or before the governing body.
Can maybe Alan or Denise research whether there were ordinances where the zoning may have been changed? Do we know if there were any?
I believe that was the case in that area, and it at one time was actually zoned as a two-family zone.
Could be.
So if there was an ordinance changing it from multi, or two-family back to one-family, we'll be able to see when that was, and we
My
can see the reasons why they did that.
Excuse me, my southerly neighbor, the home is a two-family home. It's 5 feet from my property, and I have to deal with that too, so.
You know, you make a very good point. I think what it would need would be an analysis from a professional planner to see if that's a viable option. You have to weigh that against possible impact on the school system. But given the limited area we're talking about, it's not like we're rezoning the whole neighborhood. It's just one section of the community, which may, in that area, be a very viable choice. It may be hard to sell a new one-family in that area, but it may be more easier to sell a duplex, which would offer either in a townhouse configuration or in a true duplex configuration with with a center dividing wall. I could see where they would be very popular and could sell in that area.
Yeah, that
I think
seems to
people
be the
generally
general
have less
feedback.
dollars to spend on bigger homes. I think, if nothing else, this assessment's going to push the redevelopment, or I should say, the recycling of older homes, the typical ranches and so forth, where they've been replaced by larger colonials. I think this, if nothing else, this assessment is probably going to pretty much gut that whole market. I think you're going to see that market is going to be depressed severely, and so you'll see very little replacement of older stock homes with these newer colonials, whether we like them or not. It does provide some variety for those who want a larger home and can afford them.
I was willing to take that chance down there, and then everybody knows what happened. So now, as you just said, I'm the first one to be on the chopping block.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily give up total hope on this. I mean, I think it's something that you could put forth, not only to the governing body, it's something that I think could be studied and examined to see if that's a viable area for rezoning. You know what I mean? Not just to cover your homes, but to cover the area itself. You may have it in 1 and 2 families, so you can have a mixed zone. So there's nothing preventing you from having a zone which allows 1 and 2 families. I don't know what the size of your lots are. Are they 5,000 square feet or larger?
Yeah, they're 75 by 110.
So that's a very substantial lot for a one-family by River Edge standards, right?
It is. And also, they're average lots for the town, you know. They're actually the minimum buildable lot size in town for a conforming lot.
But there are very few lots in town. I mean, the majority of our lots are less than 75 feet.
They are,
wide.
so they will support, though, a
It could
duplex.
support a duplex. No, I would say you're absolutely right. It may-
And be conforming as well with site setbacks and coverage, and including, not only will they support that type of a structure, I will not exceed any of the ordinances in doing so. Setbacks, coverage, drainage, nothing.
Well, you have a good point there. I think it needs further analysis, to see if that area, given the fact that you do have some non-conforming buildings like the multifamily dwellings that are down there, that it may very well make sense. You could file an application with the zoning board. The only reason I don't recommend that is that from a legal perspective, there's no really valid or legal basis to grant that variance, so that it's a very difficult variance, and probably the better way to deal with it is to see if the governing body wanted to examine it through a professional planner to see if that area would warrant that type of development. If you do have these larger type lots on that street, to me that would be a very good aspect of that for consideration, that you have a larger type lot, could clearly support a duplex. You could provide, if it's 75 feet wide, you could probably park four cars easily on a 75-foot lot, so you wouldn't impact on the street parking, and I think it could work. You could make it subject to a 75-foot lot, so that you can have a 1 and 2 family zone. If you want to build a duplex, you need a minimum width of 75 feet, just so you could accommodate parking on site, so you don't end up having all these cars on the street.
Right.
So it's something to bring forward. I mean, you have to decide how you want to do it. You know, you may want to consider consulting local counsel to look into that for you, and then to do an analysis, and then see if the mayor and council would entertain that type of consideration.
Okay, well, if I knew who to talk to for guidance, regarding making, or moving towards...
You got to get an attorney. That's the best way to do it.
Doing
Get
something.
an attorney. Attorney could be the number of good lawyers in this area, in Paramus and River Edge area.
To bring
that
into
could-
contact the appropriate person, or people here and...
Well, you may want to, they could do an analysis. You can hire your own planner, you know what I mean? Who could take a look at that area and then maybe put a report together, and then you can always go on the agenda and make a presentation. At least you get some consideration rather than expect, the governing body to kind of save your project.
Right.
You're
It
better
may, it
off
may be
being
worth it if
proactive.
you, yeah, it may be worth it if you have 2 lots.
Yeah, I was looking for a little guidance, and I appreciate it, and, I definitely would be willing to do that. One of the things that I have to keep in mind personally is the fact that I do have over $130,000 bond up with River Edge, the borough. I have large sums of money in escrow for development, and I do have some, I'm not a big builder that has the luxury of researching stuff and, hey, this project might pan out. Let me do this for a little while. That's not me. I have 2 little kids at home. I got my life. I got my dad's money. The borough has part, you know what I mean? And I'm on the balls of my feet. I know it'll work, and I'm willing to go the distance, but I don't have the financial backing to pursue something that's going to be dead stick, I don't know. with
Well,
the-
I
with
think
state
if
agencies.
you really want to do this with an attorney, so that at least they can outline, someone would have to do an analysis of the neighborhood, and then make some type of presentation to the board. It's a good first step. And I would suggest utilizing both an attorney and a planner to make that type of presentation. If you feel that there are other, like you said, there are a number of multiple families here, you've got larger lots, these are all aspects which may provide, I think, support for your concept for that neighborhood. And you could still preserve the 1 families. It could be a 1 and 2 family zone. That's not out of the question.
Sam, what is the process of, this sounds like a long drawn-out process just to get this going.
Well,
with the zoning...
think of now Atkins. They did this like within about 30 days. 30, 40 days, was it 50 days? Granted, they had a team. I'm not suggesting you go down to Rutgers and get an economist and all this other stuff, but I think you could get an attorney, okay, and get maybe a planner to take a look at it. There are a lot of very good planners to take a look at it, and then make a presentation and see if the governing body would be receptive to entertaining this as an area in need of redevelopment of zoning.
Well, one thing I was looking at, that, we are moving to looking for, a redevelopment attorney and stuff like that, a lot of stuff for our town to get back on their feet, because this is going to knock us around for a while. What is the chances of us getting the ball rolling faster, having our development attorney getting involved with not only looking at taking Kinnicamack Road and doing
I'm
zoning...
not
for the commercial
suggesting
or
that. I'm not suggesting that. I think he should spend some money
Mhm.
if he would like this board or this governing body to give serious consideration to his concept. So he should spend some money, get himself an attorney. He should consider retaining a planner. A planner is not very, very expensive. It costs you a couple of $1,000, something like that, to do an initial analysis. Hire an attorney, make a presentation, just as an initial first step. If it looks like the governing body is receptive, then of course he would then go further with plans and everything else once an ordinance were drafted by this board. We did it before, and I know the neighborhood he's talking about. To me, there are many aspects of it which may lend itself to a more densely developed area with duplexes. I'm not saying you're going to put this on Bogart Road, but on Park Avenue, where you do have multiple dwellings already there, there's probably a lot of non-conforming multiple dwellings there. I'd have to check, but you can probably find a number of 2-family multiple dwellings that exist on Park Avenue. And it may be an area where it will not only be helpful not only to this particular taxpayer, but may stimulate that area of town, which no one would even consider. You know, you would start developing newer homes there, and people may be interested.
Kathleen?
I know the area you're talking about, and I can appreciate you making the investment in the town. I think it's a big risk that people take, and anyone that does, I applaud you, you know, to put your neck out there. So I'm very familiar with that area, and I definitely would consider the duplex idea. That whole area is fairly depressed, and it doesn't get much traffic, so I would definitely pursue that. You know, I think, thank you for...
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
appreciate it, I do, and I appreciate you listening. And, you know, I wish this was enough consideration for me to start to say, look, here's a plan. This is what I want, this is what I have, this is what I'm talking about.
Whenever you have Paul
You know,
Quartz
but lawyer-
and Kathleen Murphy agreeing on something, it's a lot of consideration.
I appreciate it. All right, so, you know, I appreciate it, and I guess, you know, I will take that next step. As far as the planner is concerned, I don't even know who to call. Would that be...
Well, you start with an attorney that does this type of work. He will then contact the planner for you and do an analysis. He can even shop the planner, you know what I mean? There are a lot of decent planners that are very reasonable in their charges, and then they could give you an analysis, and then with your attorney, and then you have this analysis, you make a presentation to the governing body. At least you've done something, rather than just put yourself in front of the board and beg for relief.
Right. Well,
You
no,
know.
I mean, look, and I know that's really probably not likely, so either I'm going to downsize, and that's going to cost me money, to have plans redrawn and all this other stuff. Smaller homes, I have to have them reapproved and all that. That's option one. Option two is what we're discussing right now, which I think would be better for everybody, really, and it would, you know, I could only hope that, you know, we could work it out either way somehow, you know. But, you know, I appreciate you listening and the advice, so I'll take it. Go ahead and move that next step. And then I guess, you know, I don't know what the process is for something like this.
Well, you just come before just like what you're doing tonight, except you come with representation. That's all.
Right. The first thing is to hire an attorney.
Right.
All right?
All right.
Thank you, Victor.
Don't give up hope.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else who wishes to speak, we're going to go into the public meeting. Peggy.
Peggy White, 741 Center Avenue. Before you said something, Mr. Mayor, you said something about the assessment company, that we can't ask them to come in and change things. I don't understand that. What I don't understand is that some of the people that they send out, you know, do they hire people when they're going to do an assessment? They hire new people or something? Because so many of the people didn't go into a house, didn't do this, didn't do that, didn't do the other thing. If their company didn't do a good job, then why can't we fight them?
That's a very good question, Peggy. There are two types of tax reassessments or one is called a revaluation. Revaluation is supposed to happen, say, once every 10 years, where the company that the town hires goes into every house, gets access, looks at the rooms, looks at the improvements, takes measurements, takes a photograph, performs a thorough inspection, makes a property record card of accurate information, and then assesses the land and the improvement. That's a full-blown revaluation, and it would probably cost the borough of River Edge, a town this size, $500,000 to $700,000 to do that type of revaluation. There's another type of valuation that you can do, which is called a reassessment. The reassessment that the borough underwent cost about $175,000. It utilized our existing property record cards that we had from our 2005 revaluation, and the assessment company drove to everybody's property and took exterior measurements. I think they gained access to a few properties, but they didn't have to. and they did the reassessment basically from the outside. So that's the type of reassessment we had. Now, once they give us the numbers, we can't direct the company to change any individual assessment. We do hold the purse strings because we signed the contract. So if we thought that the reassessment company did such a poor job that we shouldn't pay them, then maybe we have some leverage in that regard. But that's the process that we took. We didn't undertake a full reevaluation. We took a reassessment.
Mayor?
Ed?
You're just following up on that, and that was one of the questions I didn't get from Mr. Anzavino, and I would have thought that there would have been a little more sophisticated analysis when you do this. I thought there would be at least some kind of like a statistical analysis looking at the distributions of the old assessment versus the new assessment. We had somebody come in who talked about two houses side by side being $30,000 or $40,000 apiece, or in difference, and he said there really was no quality control, quality insurance, and it seems that that's the standard practice for this. But I would have thought that the whole process would have been a little more technically sophisticated, and you would have picked up on I guess, some of these anomalies, and you might have been able to address them at that time. Once it's done, it's done. Unfortunately, now you're stuck with the other process of having him to look at it individually and addressing them one-on-one. And the other question goes back to, and we never had an answer either, was why it seems that the previous reassessment was wrong as well. The property cards are still wrong, so if they did a reevaluation in 2005, they didn't fix the property cards then. We know that there was errors that led to tax appeals, so there's all kinds of questions going back, but you can't go backwards. The problem we have is that the new one shifted so much from the old one, and we have to understand why, and I'm not satisfied with the answers we've gotten so far.
We have a couple new hands up. There's a gentleman over here I haven't called on yet. You, sir?
Yes, well, actually, my issue is exactly what you're saying, is that this company did the appraisal.
Let us have your name and address.
Paolo Cilia, 685 Fifth Avenue.
Okay.
And I've emailed you a couple of times.
Right.
So the assessment company was really negligent in many ways. The assessor, when he came to my home, I let him in, and I noted to him that the square footage of my home was wrong, and that he should measure it and verify what is there. He didn't have a ruler. He didn't want to measure it. He just did a quick walkthrough and started to go out. And I said, well, if someone has a complaint about the form, there's a mistake, then how do you capture their information? He says they have no way to capture them. You have no way to take your input as a homeowner and tell them there's something wrong with the property card. And the mistake is just mathematical. The sketch diagram shows you what the square foot should be, and the property card itself on the first floor level includes my garage as part of the first floor when it's not. So I've been paying for 20 years, 20 years old, my home. I've been paying for 20 years 400 square foot more on the first floor than it's actually there. And I can't get that corrected. And I went to the appeal process with the assessor. I met with him. I explained to him again. I showed him diagrams. I showed him pictures of the house. I showed him how to do the calculation correctly based on a sketch diagram. This is what you should be doing. I said to him, you don't have to take my word for it. You come to the house and you verify for yourself. Come again. And there's no follow-up, no follow-through. What kind of, we're paying for them to do a job and they're doing it so badly. Why are we paying them? That's what I don't understand. Why are we so nice?
When you say the assessor, sir, are you talking about the company or actually the town?
Assessment company.
Did you talk to Jim Ansavino, our tax assessor?
I did. This is where some of the confusion came. The assessment company, the person who came to the house says, it's really not my job. You should be talking to the town assessor. And so Jim, which I spoke to Jim, and Jim said, that's the person who's coming there to correct the property card if it's wrong. And that's your process to get that information input. So I don't know why we have a town assessor if no one in town can react and fix a problem that's wrong and so obvious. Why are we so negligent? Why we can't get the assessor to do it?
Did Jim fix it?
Excuse me?
When you sat down with Jim Enzovino, did he fix it?
I spoke to him on the phone. No, he didn't fix it. He said, I have to go to the appeal process.
No, not for a factual error.
No, not for a factual error. He should be able to change that.
Well, that's why
I mean,
I'm appealing this. Well, why is it...
You don't need to appeal a factual
Why is
error.
there a failure of execute here? I mean, why are we... What's wrong with us? So that's my primary, problem that I have, that a technical problem, a mathematical error on the property card can't seem to get corrected. No one is willing to come to the front.
Did you take that, did you take it to him?
I even spoke to the mayor about it. I mentioned to the mayor.
I'm saying, did you physically take it down to him, saying, this is the problem?
Well, I
here"?
went down a couple of times. I spoke to him on the phone. He didn't want to meet with me.
Well, he has to meet. He
Well,
has to.
look,
He can't just say, he
well,
can't meet. Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Listen,
Can someone...
again, the cutoff date for the appeals that you have to file at the county
Is May
tax
1st.
board is May 1st.
Yes.
Mr. Enzovino, if you file your appeal and you have a good basis, if there's any error in your property record card, you have a good basis to have your assessment corrected. File your appeal by May 1st, and you'll get one-on-one attention.
Well, Mayor, this is the problem that I have. I have to file an appeal to have mathematical error on the property card corrected.
That's because this body can't correct your property
No,
record
but
card.
I'll
Only the
tell him
assessor
that
can. Yeah.
That's
Only-
his job.
That's
We're
his job.
paying him for it. Why can't he do it?
Well, he can't. You gotta bring it to, you gotta go through the process, unfortunately.
Well, I tried to get an appointment with him, and I can't get an appointment.
No,
April 16th, he will be here. He will be here on April the 16th.
Tomorrow he's here?
He's here on Tuesdays, Mayor.
Okay, he's here on Tuesdays too.
4:30.
Thank you.
4:30 tomorrow.
There was a hand up in the back. Casey.
Before you were saying something about they do actual measurements, was that inside the house or outside?
They were supposed to do exterior measurements.
And what is that done with? Transoms, I think they call them, the sites?
I don't know the techniques
no.
they used.
Okay, the guy who came to my house was putting one foot in front of the other. I can't walk that straight line anymore.
I don't know.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to know where he came up with his calculations like this gentleman was saying. How do I get one of these cards that you're speaking about?
Downstairs in the tax assessor's office, there's a card on every piece of property.
I can get a copy of that or
Yeah.
the actual
It's
one?
public record.
For 5
Public
cents.
record. Yes, sir.
Bob Bianco, 210 Kensington Road.
Okay.
Sorry, I have a cold. Very interesting to hear you say, because he came to my door too as a company, and I just assumed because he was coming in, that we were supposed to show him the house. And that's a big difference, the $170,000 versus $500,000, okay, paying their fees. I still would like to know, I got my little card.
Right.
Okay, but I don't, where do I find out, and nothing tells me how much taxes I'm going to pay. How do I find out for 2012, what am I actually going to pay? I can tell you, but I haven't done it from...
If you go on, and someone... Maybe
ASNIJ.com.
Right. If you go onto if you go onto the borough, do you have a computer? If you go onto the borough website, is there a link? No, there's no link to the appraisal company?
ASINJ.com.
You told people where to go, but we didn't meet.
There's a, excuse me.
Yes.
There's, as you're saying, there's a website, and those of us who have it can give it to you after the meeting, and you can put into the website the value of the home at the new assessed value, plus the 2012 tax rate, and it'll calculate for you what your taxes will be next year.
Somebody already knows their tax ratio for next year?
Yep.
There's a tax worksheet.
I haven't been told.
I'd like to share one more thing that...
Wait a minute. Let's go into the 8 o'clock public meeting. At the 8 o'clock public meeting, we'll open it back up to the public, and we'll take the rest of your comments. But right now, we have to go into the open public meeting. But if you speak to this gentleman over here, he'll give you the website information where you can get your 2000